Okay, today I'm flying on Transnusa. And this is a bit of a special flight. We're flying on a Comac plane today. Not the really cool Comac. Kind of the lame Comac, actually.
I take it all back. This is not a lame plane. This is the official promo video from the Comac website.
This plane is almost as rare as the other Comac. This is the only one flying outside of China. So I'm in Jakarta right now. Let's go to Denpasar and check out this plane, I guess.
What time your flight?
1:30.
I see your passport?
Yeah.
Do you have check-in bag?
Yeah, one bag.
One luggage?
One, yeah.
This is your gate, 26, boarding time, and your seat. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. So, who are Transnusa and why are they the only airline outside of China to have Comac planes? Well, Transnusa started service in 2005 as a small regional Indonesian airline that operated primarily between the islands in the East Nusa Tenggara province of Indonesia. This is the southernmost region of Indonesia and comprises of around 500 islands. They had a small, leased fleet of predominantly propeller planes. Business was going well up until 2020, when, as we all know, the entire aviation industry ground to a halt due to the pandemic. In order to survive, Transnusa took a $28 million investment from the China Aircraft Leasing Group in exchange for about 35% of the company. The China Aircraft Leasing Group is an aircraft leasing company based in Hong Kong. They aren't technically a Chinese state-owned company. They are a public company listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Their largest shareholder, however, is China Everbright Limited, a Hong Kong-based investment company whose majority owner is the China Investment Corporation, which is literally China's largest sovereign wealth fund. This does mean that after this investment, around 6% of Transnusa is indirectly owned by the Chinese government. This did save the company though, and it also came with a fresh new direction for the airline. They were no longer going to be a small regional airline, and instead were going to be a new low-cost carrier based out of Jakarta, competing with the likes of AirAsia and Jetstar. They were also going to be operating an all-new fleet consisting of Airbus A320neos and Comac ARJ21s. In doing so, they became the first non-Chinese airline to operate a Comac plane.
Wow!
The all-new Transnusa operates out of the domestic side of Terminal 3 in Jakarta Soekarno-Hatta Airport, which is generally a good thing as this is the most modern of the three terminals. There is one thing to note about this terminal though, it's huge. So it's a 19-minute walk. Boarding's supposed to start in 7 minutes. It's air conditioned in here, but it's not that air conditioned. I am at gate 26. There's a Garuda plane sitting right there. I can't see the Comac. Yes. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Alright, now we go downstairs. Or something? Oh, I see. We're getting a bus. Here it is, the Comac ARJ21. Now, I was actually kind of lying to you at the start of this video when I said that
This is the only one flying outside of China.
because 2 days before this flight, Transnusa started operating their second ARJ21, and this just happened to be that plane. It's absolutely brand new, with this being its 5th ever commercial flight. This is well and truly the newest plane I've ever stepped foot on. Boarding took a little while as we all showed up on the bus and then kind of just crowded around waiting to get up the single set of stairs and onto the plane. This was fine for me as I just stood around taking some videos. Off in the distance, I spotted Transnusa's other ARJ21. It was clearly taking a break today. I was the last person to get on board, which worked well as I was seated in seat 1A. Once everyone was seated, it was another 5 to 10 minutes before we finally said goodbye to the stairs and started our taxi. There was quite a few engineers and ground staff coming back and forth. I imagine this has to do with the operations not being super smooth with the Comac quite yet.
Untuk menghubungkannya tarik keluar merah baru jangan keluar darurat. Evacuation slots are located at
After a rather long taxi, we took off at 1:55 p.m. local time, 25 minutes after the scheduled departure time. We departed out to the northeast before making a right-hand turn towards Bali. The ARJ cruised at 35,000 feet for the majority of this flight, and we landed at Bali's Denpasar airport at 2:27 p.m. local time, 12 minutes late. Now, I'll sort of talk about Transnusa and the Comac planes separately. I'll start with Transnusa as there's not a whole lot to say. They're a pretty basic low-cost carrier. If you noticed, I'm sitting in seat 1A. I'm not usually the type to book a front row seat on a short-haul flight, but in this case, I booked the fully flexible ticket because Transnusa had been swapping and changing schedules leading up to this flight, and I wanted to make sure that if they swapped this to an A320, I could easily change my flight to one with the Comac plane. This premium ticket also came with an in-flight meal and premium seating options. The seats on the ARJ are all pretty comfortable though, with a decent amount of padding. There's no in-flight entertainment, but for the sub 3 hour flights that these planes will be doing, it's completely fine with me. I'd pretty much forgotten that I had an in-flight meal coming, so I got a bit of a surprise when the flight attendant brought that around just after takeoff. It was like this omelette with vegetables and sausage. I have an incredibly low bar for the food that I'll eat. I ate this, but it was not good. The sausage really didn't look that appealing, and the rest of it was just bland and had the consistency of a terrible microwave meal. It's pretty much what you can expect from any low-cost carrier though. Okay, that's Transnusa done, so now let's talk about the actual Comac plane. Now, obviously, this is a pretty modern jet, so on a whole, it's much like any other normal flight that you'd take any day of the week. I did, however, notice a couple of pretty noteworthy points of difference, just things that stood out to me. So let's go through those. First up, and this one's kind of related to the meal service, is the tray table. I was sitting in the front row, and so the tray table was in the armrest, so you have to like fold it out. But when I did pull it out, it was on a bit of an angle, which is a bit of a weird thing for a brand new plane. And it meant that I sort of had to prop up my tray with some napkins in order to stop my food from sliding onto the floor. This could have been helped by Transnusa by maybe having a tray with a bit more friction. The second thing was the seat belts. They had the weirdest attachment to the actual seat that I've ever seen. Usually it's just like one bolt going into the base of the seat, but in the case of the Comac, it sort of has this really complicated 2 bolts moving bracket situation. I don't know if it's a safety thing. I don't know if it's an over-engineering thing. I've never seen it before. It's not a negative, didn't affect comfort or anything. If anybody knows anything about these, please let me know in the comments down below. Now, the third thing, the toilets. There were 2 toilets, one at the front, one at the back. Let's go check out the back one first. Very nice round mirror, actually. Light. I have to say it's very noisy at the back and very quiet at the front. Who would have guessed? I reckon the engines are about there, right? The front toilet is pretty much the same. Brand new plane. Wouldn't drain. Now, the final thing that stood out to me were the air vents. When I got on board, they were like going all out, full speed, which made sense because the door was open, cooled the plane down. Made sense. But then as we went to taxi, they stayed on. And then strangely, when we actually went to take off, they got even louder. They were blowing even more air. It seemed to me that the amount of air they were blowing was directly coupled to the RPM of the engine. And like, yeah, I get that the bleed air often in engines is used in the air conditioning system. It's not directly coupled to the air conditioning, but maybe it is in this plane. So that was very weird. What really made me cognizant of this point, when we come into land, right before we touch down, when they're completely down to 0% power in the engine, it goes completely silent in the cabin. Like beforehand, you can just sort of hear the air vents, but then when we actually land, you just listen here. Look, it might be something obvious and I'm just being stupid here. Please let me know in the comments below. So yeah, that was it. That was my experience with Transnusa and the Comac ARJ21. Just quickly to throw my 2 cents in on the whole Comac thing overall. I think they're generally a good thing for the aviation industry. The Airbus and Boeing duopoly has been going on for too long, and I think everyone would benefit from more competition in this market. I think the planes are safe. Look, Airbus makes a bunch of A320s in China, and China on a whole has a very good aviation safety record, so I'm not concerned about the safety of these planes. Obviously, there's big questions around copying and industrial espionage. There's actually some very interesting articles about this. I'd recommend looking up the MD-80 and Comac. It's quite interesting. This is probably the most contentious point, and that's fair enough. And that kind of can come down to how you view copying on a whole as well. Government ownership is also probably not the best. Obviously, government ownership is a little bit different from subsidies. Boeing and Airbus have been suing each other since 2005 over receiving subsidies from their respective governments. But they conveniently settled these cases in 2021, right around the time that the Comac C919 started to show some real promise as a real plane. So go figure. Make of that what you will. Also, by 2040, Airbus estimates that the domestic market in China will be larger than that of the US. I guess it's only fair enough that China wants to make their own plane to service their own market. They're a large industrialized nation. Yeah, I can't blame them for trying, right? Obviously, it's a bit of a controversial topic. Get in an argument in the comments down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more stuff like this. Check out flightformula.com, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.